Welcome back to the Coffee Nerds, where we have real conversations with real coffee nerds. My name is Alejo, and today I am excited to introduce to you another coffee content creator who runs the Instagram profile Exploration Coffee. Yes, I've got John Williquette today, and we're going to talk about his background in coffee. He's got a marketing background. We're going to talk about how he started his content creation journey, and ultimately, we're here to have fun. Today's episode is sponsored by Coffee Manufactory. More on them later, but for now, let's get right into the episode. Hope you guys enjoy. Here we go. Here's John Williquette. All right. So I've got John Williquette from Exploration Coffee on Instagram for those of you that follow his page. This is the face behind all the really cool black and white photography. So John, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm super excited to do this with you, and let's talk about some coffee stuff.
Actually, like right before I hit record, you showed me some coffee. What do you got in your cup today?
Oh man, all right. So this is a medium roast natural from Costa Rica, and I'm blanking on the producer or the farm specifically. It's roasted by Super Lost Coffee out of Brooklyn. Um, it's delightful. It's got some really nice like pineapple-ish notes, lots of fun fruits, got a strawberry finish to it. It's nice. Yeah, I got a whole carafe over here. So
Nice. Um, yeah, so John, I just want to give you a few minutes to just explain a little bit about what you do. Hopefully, people know your page, Exploration Coffee, but just share a little bit about what you do there on Instagram.
yeah, absolutely. So wow, that's such a fun question. Um, so yeah, I essentially, in a nutshell, I do content creation for brands specifically, whether it's coffee roasters or equipment manufacturers. I do a lot of short form review of equipment and coffee. I more recently I've been diving more into the like education style content. And because I've noticed that a lot of the people who follow me are just starting out in the coffee experience, whether it's coffee in general or specialty coffee. And so, kind of helping walk them through the fundamentals of coffee and why stuff matters, and allowing them to kind of kickstart their journey into specialty coffee specifically. Uh, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
And you're not just a coffee content creator, but you are an author, correct? Of C is for
Yes,
Coffee.
yes, yes. Thank you so much for mentioning that. So that was a brainchild of my wife actually,
Nice.
who was like, "Hey, John, you love coffee, and if you didn't know, I'm a graphic designer full time. Coffee is a super fun hobby side hustle for me. So she's like, you should like merge the two and make a book." Of fun coffee stuff. And so we were trying to think through like what that would look like and what we'd make it about. And so we have a son who is almost two, um, and we were thinking, he's gonna be learning soon, and so we thought let's do an ABC book. And so yeah, we did that, and we self-published, and it's called C is for Coffee, ABC is for Little Ones. It's on Amazon. There's a link in my bio. Yeah, it's a super fun little side side project for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I just think that was pretty unique. C is for Coffee. Guys, I'll probably link to it too. So you have a son that's almost 2 years old, and he's going to be learning his ABCs. Obviously, you mentioned something that like he can only eat through a tube. Can you I don't
Correct.
share whatever you want about that? But that's different, and I'm just
Yeah.
curious. What that entails. What's the background behind that?
Sure, for sure. So yeah, our story is definitely unique, and we've had quite the journey with our son. He was born super early, at the local children's hospital, with something called hydronephrosis, grade 5 hydronephrosis. And basically, it's a bladder blockage, and so it caused some pretty severe bladder and kidney damage, even before he was born. So he's born with that existing damage. And he's had in the first year and a half of his life, we had 12 hospital stays, 3 operations, tons and tons of medications and doctor's visits and all sorts of things to try to help him out. He's had major bladder reconstructive surgery, and has just been a total trooper through all of that. But as a result, some of the downsides, some of the side effects of his conditions were that he wasn't able to eat on his own. And so, and it's been that way since he was 5 months old.
Wow.
He around that time he stopped eating on his own, and so it started with an NG tube down the nose, and has progressed to a surgical. It's called a G tube, and it's just a little port button in his stomach that we connect to syringes, and so we feed him as many times as we're supposed to throughout the day through pureed G tube food. And so
Wow.
that's my wife does most of that stuff. She's a total superhero when it comes to that. Um, so she's not only mom, she's also nurse, and has just been an amazing, amazing part of that journey for sure. And so, yeah, that's basically what we do with him. He does drink water on his own through a cup with a straw. Um, but one of the things that has surprised us in the last couple months is that he actually enjoys coffee as well. And so when I'm up on the bar shooting content or just making a cup for myself, he wants nothing more than to be up there with me, and and will occasionally dip his finger into the coffee cup and drink the coffee with me, and that's super fun. And so that's a little part of the coffee experience I get to enjoy with my son. So
That's so
that's a really
cool.
fun piece of that.
And if anybody follows John's page, like you'll see his son periodically put his little cars in the grinders or um,
I was just gonna say the niche has that fun little plastic kind of clamshell cover to it, and I will oftentimes find random toys wedged in between there. It's always something that fits in there. So,
I'm starting to feel another page coming on called "Will It Grind?" and
oh no,
you
uh,
can,
I
yeah,
feel
there's another way
like,
to test some products. See what else it grinds.
oh man, I don't feel like niche would appreciate me putting more than coffee. I mean, it's a great stress test if you're into
Yeah,
reviewing grinders.
yeah.
Will it Hot Wheels? I don't know. I don't
But
know.
all fun aside, I think what's very unique about that is I don't think I've ever seen a picture of your son without a smile on his face, and
Mm,
um, and that just attributed to you, your wife, and just the hard work and
mm,
patience and labor of love that you guys are extending towards your son, even in that difficult. I mean, I've never heard of it. So thanks for sharing. Just
yeah.
your story, your wife's story, and just everything that you do to be there for your son. I think that's a really great quality of you two.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for saying that. It's definitely been a tough journey, but we're God gave them to us for a reason. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do our best to be faithful, for sure.
All right. So, John, you mentioned that you are your day job is a marketer, and I think I do want to talk about that in a little bit. But before we do, I'm really curious what got you into coffee in the first place. If you can maybe just
Yeah.
share a little bit about your journey getting into coffee.
So, yeah, I have to say, kind of shamefully, that my first interaction with coffee was a cup of Folgers, and eh, I was super young, and I had started putting things like sugar or Splenda in it because it was the only way to make it palatable. And someone, an older guy at our church at one point had said, you should just drink it black because that's how men drink coffee, and it wasn't happening for me. Fast forward all the way through college and up to about 2015. I was interning at a nonprofit, and one of the guys who works with us had taken some regular trips over to the African continent, and at one point brought back, I think it was a Kenyan coffee, and it had to have been no more than like a month off roast. He had bought it, at origin, and brought it back for me, and I tried it, and it was one of the best cups of coffee I had ever experienced. I didn't know that coffee could taste like this. right? And it was completely mind blowing to me. It was life changing for me. And shortly after, I bought my first Chemex. It's that one right up there. Um, and I started kind of making my own little pour overs with this coffee. Well, I kind of fell in love with it, and so I started buying more specialty coffee from various places. I had bought some from Intelligentsia and from Volcanica and others because I was just blown away that coffee could be this good. Um, and so fast forward all the way again to 2022, we were still enjoying specialty coffee at home, my wife and I now. Um, and she had mentioned that I should post about the coffee. And so this is kind of coming from my initial coffee journey into kind of where I am now in content. Um, and so I started posting kind of on my personal page and made a couple of friends through that, and a local roaster, Corey and Kelsey, became good friends of ours, and so started drinking some of theirs, started posting more about it, and as I started to accumulate a few followers, I thought maybe this is something that should be on its own, right? And because I do um, design work full time, I kind of made my own little logo thing and kind of started out, and I thought exploration coffee because I'm exploring coffee, and that kind of makes sense. So that was about the extent of the thought that I put into the name, um, and it kind of went from there. And I've been enjoying some incredible specialty coffee since, and posting about it, and now I get to work with some really cool brands in the process, and it's just so from a cup of Folgers as a child to where we are now is a big leap, but definitely a leap I would love to see a lot of other people do, and that's kind of where that educational piece comes in.
I do want to say, shout out to our wives for getting us into this because
Oh,
it was the same thing. If it
yes.
weren't for my wife just suggesting, hey, just start posting about it, and then
Hmm.
here we are. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Thank you.
so you've been doing exploration coffee for how long now?
Almost, it's 2 years this month.
2 years, and then
Yeah.
so prior to that, you've been in marketing already. When did you get into marketing? Like how did that become a course of study for you?
I've always enjoyed, even from like my teenage years, I enjoyed the process of design, and enjoyed things like web design and social media, graphic design. I dabbled, for myself and for my dad and others. My dad's a very entrepreneurial kind of guy, and so I learned a lot about kind of business from him. Even I built my first website when I was 12, and so I've always had that kind of that technological and business mindset. And it was kind of a natural course of study for me when I was looking to go to college, kind of trying to marry that aspect of design and communications and marketing and then the business side of things. And so I majored in um, digital media communications, which had a lot of a marketing aspect to it, with a kind of a business management minor, and actually through some unfortunate health issues in college, I only did 3 years,
Mhm.
so I don't officially have a degree, but I started doing marketing and design during an internship right after school, and then from there went back to the university that I had almost graduated from and worked for them on staff for four and a
Okay.
half years before coming to my current place. So it's just been kind of a natural progression for me as I start to as I've progressed in the design field, but also in the marketing side of things, and kind of marrying those two into specifically focusing on marketing design. Um, so that's been super, and it's been super helpful in my work as a content creator as well. A lot of marketing is psychology, and so kind of getting into the heads of people and understanding what drives them and how they work and how they think and how they function, and being able to best meet them where they are, and help them along the process. So um, it's been an interesting career path that's helped a lot in what I do for content now.
So basically that background you got with marketing, then you got your coffee journey on the other hand,
Mhm.
and exploration coffee is just kind of like the culmination of those two things in
Yeah,
a sense. Is that right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way to put that for sure.
When's the last time that you had cloud roasted coffee? For me, it was when I brewed up this bag from Coffee Manufactory. Coffee Manufactory is a company that was actually born out of Tartine Bakery. Tartine Bakery operates out of 3 major cities, including Los Angeles, the Bay Area, and also Seoul in Korea. Now, what is cloud roasted coffee? Cloud roasted coffee is roasted in a controlled gas-fired air vortex, and the result is a very aromatic, very consistent coffee roast. And it just tastes so good. Right now, Coffee Manufactory is offering 20% off of their coffee for listeners of the Coffee Nerds. Visit coffeemanufactory.com and use our discount code CoffeeNerd20 for 20% off. Again, that's coffeemanufactory.com and use our discount code CoffeeNerd20 for 20% off your next purchase. And now, back to the episode. So, can you run through just a day in the life of a content creator? Like what does content creation look like for you? I don't know if it's daily or weekly or how you batch your content, but could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, boy, what does a day in the life look like for me? Well, as we've already mentioned, I have a full-time job, so content is the side business for
Mhm.
us. And we have a 2-year-old, right? So there's a lot of that as well. So typically, I'll come home from work in the afternoon. We'll spend some time with my family, do the dinner thing, and then there's about an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 45 minutes in between, um, when my wife takes my son upstairs to get ready for bed, and then when we kind of start settling down for the night, my wife and I. And so during that hour and a half to hour 45 is when I typically am working on content. And I do it every day, um, Monday through Friday, and then sometimes on Saturdays as well. So I try to take Sundays off as a day of rest to spend time with my family and to take them to church and things like that. But yeah, so that hour and a half, hour 45, I'm doing scripting. I'm doing all the shooting for my content, and then I'll do a super quick edit. And I'm so thankful, the amount of time that I've spent doing video content for my internship in the past and for my other employment before this one. I did a lot of video content, and so jumping into Premiere or CapCut or whatever I'm using to most efficiently do that. Yeah, so during that small time window in the evenings, I'm doing all of that, getting ready to publish. I try to do it in advance, so it's not every day that I'm, doing something the night before and posting it the next day, but it depends on the week and how busy we are with the regular life stuff. So on some of the bigger projects, I do take a lot more time, typically on the weekends, to do all of that kind of scripting and shooting and things like that. So it depends on the scope of the project mainly. But for my, if you have been following me at all, um, I do post a reel every single weekday, and so a lot of that is coming from those nightly shoots that I'm doing. So yeah, it's a grind.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. Definitely making use of the time that you have. I think
Mm,
that's definitely a big takeaway for anybody looking to get into content creation is just look carving out time. And it sounds like you
yeah.
do a pretty good job at actually setting time aside at this time of the day
Mhm.
and just doing it, just getting it done.
Yeah, a lot of it is about the intentionality, right? Being intentional, being efficient with your time, having a process that you can figure out on the front end and take the time to figure out that process and then stick to it is always been really helpful for me anyway. Trying to be most productive, like you said, with the time that I have.
Nice. And you mentioned a few tools like Premiere and
Hmm.
CapCut. What are your go-to tools for video editing or I think most of your content's video. I do see some pictures, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, run through your list. What are your go tos in this world of content creation?
Yeah, great question. Again, it depends on the scope of the project. The bulk of my content is edited in either CapCut or Premiere. Typically CapCut because the workflow is a little bit better. For some of my more advanced projects, I definitely throw things into Premiere because the flexibility and the overall range of tools is so much
Mhm.
larger. Although there is a bigger cost to the Adobe suite. But I also do all of my photo editing in a combination of Lightroom and Photoshop. So I work a lot out of that too when I'm doing my photo carousels and things. Um, but a lot of, interestingly enough, and I've noticed this from other content creators as well, a lot of what I'm shooting on is this uh, because the camera is so great in the iPhone, especially the newer ones. That's a big tool in my arsenal. You don't need big, huge, heavy camera gear to make great looking content. Um, a lot of it is lighting, right?
Mhm.
If you have great lighting, and I have some really nice aperture lights that I use, some small little MC lights. And so if you can get the lighting right, it doesn't always matter what camera platform you're using.
Yeah, I do like. I love your lighting in your kitchen.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank you.
think behind you is where a lot of your content comes from.
Yep, that's
um,
this is the bar.
yeah. um, and another thing that I really love about your content is just that contrast of black and white.
Mm,
It's I picked up on that. I love it, and
it's a vibe. It's a vibe. I I think it's a vibe like a black tie event, I think someone said once. I will tell you though, in retrospect, the white counters are an absolute pain to keep clean, especially on like the heavy shoot kind of days when I'm making a big mess doing something crazy like espresso. Uh, yeah, maybe I would have chosen a different countertop color in my next content series. We'll see.
there you go. Well, maybe you need a second bar in your kitchen. I don't know.
If yes, yes.
Oh man. So you mentioned some tools that you use for content creation. Is there anything that you use for organizing your thoughts or your scripts, or even just like a calendar? Like what do you do to
Yeah,
kind of organize yourself in that respect?
great question. It used to be nothing. It used to be just kind of a note on my notes app on my phone, and that was and it started to get too crazy for me to try to keep organized and to try to keep my thoughts all in one place. So not sponsored, but I really like Monday.com. And they have that platform in it as a task management software has been phenomenal. So I have a full constant calendar on there, um, and uh, I keep track of all of my due dates. I get to kind of structure out all of my content. I know what's coming. I know what I've already done. Um, Jumping into each of those task projects as a whole, and so I organize each of my reels or each of my photo carousels by task. And so within those tasks, I can put all of my notes and my scripting and everything else for use, and I set due dates on all of them so I know when things are dropping. Um, they have great statuses, customizable statuses that you can use. So when I'm working on something, I can mark it as I'm working on it. If it's ready
Nice.
to post, I can mark it ready to post, and all of those things. And it's been a really, really good, helpful tool for me just because of the vast quantity of projects that I'm working on. So
Wow.
I would recommend it to anybody who needs
Nice.
a place to organize their thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, organization is key. And I
Yeah.
like what you said. You know what's coming, and I think one thing to remember about content creation is usually there's a lot of thought, or at least, for those that are really good at what they do, there's a lot of forethought.
Mhm.
There's a lot of planning ahead. It's not just like oh, let me just shoot this and post it. There's a
Hmm.
lot more that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So I appreciate you kind of
yeah.
shedding light on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about because I think when people look at content creation, just in general, and I'm even speaking from my own experience, I would see content being posted, and how, how does the whole system work? Maybe you can demystify this creator network, and talk a little bit about like what does it mean to have a sponsored post. Like how do you strike deals with brands? Are you reaching out? Are brands reaching out to you? I think that's a
Hmm.
lot of questions actually, just in there's a lot of questions there,
Yeah,
but um, I think I can just sum it up. Like how do you demystify being a creator, and what you do behind the scenes?
yeah. I think that is a super loaded series of questions.
Yeah.
I think from the start, I think content creation can be what you want it to be. I think there are plenty of people who are super passionate about coffee and want to share that experience with people they know and they love. And I think that's a form of content creation. Whether that ever becomes a part of a business model, right? I think people who want to be passionate and love coffee, and want to post about it, do that. That's an awesome thing. Um, for me personally, I've chosen the business model route for content creation, and um, being able to work with brands to produce high level content for them as a way of marketing, or advertising a product or service that they offer. So, um, yeah, I think when you first get started, I think there's this kind of rose-colored glasses mentality that if I start posting videos, people will send me whatever I want, and it'll just be the best life ever. And there's a harsh reality that sets in about 6 months after you've posted your first video, that it's a lot harder to get into this space than I think some people realize. When you first start out in content creation, there is a lot of reaching out to brands, um, and it can be really hard at the beginning, because a lot of brands are looking for really high returns, right, on their investment, because they are investing, whether it's through gifted product or through actual like monetary exchange. um they that's marketing spend for them, right, and they're looking for a return on the investment they've made with you as a creator, whether it's because they want to increase exposure of their brand or product, or they need someone to create the content because they don't have someone in house to do that for them. And so, um, when you're first starting out, a lot of the content you're going to do is gifted, because you don't have the followers, you don't have the engagement that that naturally leads to high ROI for a brand. And so, uh, a lot of brands aren't comfortable paying you for that content and service. Personally, I started doing a lot of the gifted stuff up front, and then as I started to kind of hone in the content style, the content quality and value, I did start setting prices, and they were pretty small up front. I think the first couple things I did were like 35, $45 for a reel, a 90-second reel. Um, and and that was enough for the brands that I was working with to feel like they were getting some return out of the size of platform that I was offering them.
Mhm.
Um, I do think, though, there is something to be said for the quality and service, and I think one really good way for a starting out creator to work with brands, um, so that you feel like you're being valued as a creator offering a professional service, and the brand gets the return that they're requesting. I think one really good way, to talk to brands is about whitelisting. Um, and so if you're not familiar with whitelisting, it's essentially the ability for you to create content for a brand to post on their own platform. UGC is another good term, but um, and be able to put marketing spend behind that content. So instead of a brand approaching you and say, "Hey, I want one reel and one photo carousel post on your platform," and you can say, "Great, it's going to be $200," and they'll say, "Well, you have 400 followers; it's not worth $200." You can approach that with the mentality of um, I'm offering a professional service, right? I'm offering content creation, high quality content creation that can add a lot of really great value to your brand and products. And so let's talk about whitelisting. And maybe I create content for you for that amount and you can post it. You
Hmm.
have the follower, you have the engagement, so let me provide this service for you for this dollar amount, and whatever that looks like, and whatever that makes sense for
Yeah.
them as a brand, and whatever makes sense for you as the creator, for your time and expertise and the value you're providing. I think if you approach things that way, um, the by and large the interaction that I've had with brands on that model has been very um, impactful for both of us because now you're both valued, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, and I'm not dissing the gifted mentality. I think it's a great thing, especially if you're a starting creator looking for the right equipment to get further into content creation. Gifted can be very beneficial for you. But I think as you start to produce the high quality content and you're offering value to those brands, I think whitelisting is always a great way to go. And then, of course, naturally, as you grow the account to a size that makes more sense from a marketing standpoint for a brand, um, then you're offering reach and you're
Hmm.
offering engagement, you're offering click throughs
Right.
and actual value to the brand because your account is leading to their sales. And so you can start offering more
Yeah.
and asking for more because you're now offering the value even higher than what you could before. So um, that's kind of how I've approached things. Other content creators may look at that differently, but that's kind of the way that I've chosen to set up my brand and the services that I can provide. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I think that was really interesting insight into how you approach it. I think one thing that stuck out to me is how you just mentioned, a brand may reach out to you wanting a certain thing,
Hmm.
and that's their marketing resource. Like that's their marketing budget. So,
Yeah,
for me, as I'm learning all about this and even just kind of hearing you talk about it, I think it's really important to remember that, a lot of these companies, they have a budget or they may not even have the resources to create that type of content on their own.
yeah,
So in a way, you positioning yourself as a content creator, but working with the brand, I think that definitely provides a lot more value. I think you just kind of go in and you just work with them like they're a partner, and if they
yeah.
if their product aligns really well with what people need, like I think
Hmm.
it's an easy sell, and it almost doesn't even feel like you're selling anything at that point. It's just, yeah, I
Yes.
love this brand, and their product speaks for itself.
Yeah, for sure. I will also add this as a kind of a side note. And I'm gonna share it with a story, a backstory to this that matters a lot to what I'm gonna say. When I first started out doing content, I looked back on it. I think it was a year and a half ago now, so like 6 months into my content, and I don't remember how many followers I had. It may have been sub 1,000. Um, super small, super like beginnings of my content creation journey. And I think it was Niche reached out to me and asked if they could send me a zero. And that, to me, to have a brand of that magnitude reach out to a creator as small as me and have faith in me that I was growing and I was producing quality content. And they sent me a zero, and it was my first high-end piece of coffee gear. Um, but they had enough of a desire to invest in me as a small creator that it made a really big impact. And so I've tried to take that mindset, that mentality, and I regularly get approached by coffee roasters who are, maybe they're a year in, maybe they're 2 years in to roasting coffee, and they're just desperately trying to get their name out there because they're so passionate about coffee and don't have any of the budget to really invest in big marketing spend, right?
Yeah.
And so they're begging creators, can I please send you some coffee? Because it would mean the world to me that you share the product that I'm so passionate about with other people. Um, and it's rare that I don't accept those types of collaborations, because I remember, and I'm not a big account by any means at this stage, but I remember having Niche invest in me as a small creator who was super passionate about making content for coffee, that I want to pass that along and build up other community members who are also trying to to make it right
Mm.
in coffee. And that's been a super helpful and beneficial. It's created some really good friendships and good relationships with small batch roasters and people who are working really hard and are super passionate about coffee. So that's something to consider as well. Not everything is about money, right? It's We're out here and we're supporting the community, and the money will come, right? If that's the model you've chosen, you're gonna get there, but don't forget about the community in the process,
Mm.
right? It's not just marketing, it's community too. It's relationships, and that's equally as important.
Wow, that's really good. Yeah, never forget the community. I want to tie that back in with something that you mentioned earlier about marketing is, and that's meeting people where they're at, and trying to find out like your customer voice in a way, like who are you serving, and and how is the content that you're creating serving that individual? Could you talk a little bit about that, and how you approach exploration coffee, but with that marketing mindset, with meeting people where they're at?
My philosophy behind content creation as a whole, in meeting people where they are, has been mainly driven by trying to introduce people and help them grow in their coffee journeys. So, the bulk of my audience at this stage, I think I've mentioned this, are people who are just starting out in specialty coffee. Some of them don't know, um, that a burr grinder is a better choice as a grinder, right? And so, how do I get them to a point that they can enjoy specialty coffee at its fullest,
Hmm.
um, with whatever tools that they have? So sometimes it's super upfront. It's, hey, this this coffee storage canister is a really great choice for making sure that you're keeping your beans as fresh as possible, right? Sometimes it's right there in front. Sometimes it's, um, having a product in the background. It's sitting there, but it's there, right? And so, but what a lot of the stuff that I talk about, in using the various tools and resources that I have available to me to help people, get excited about what's available in coffee. I just
Hmm.
had a conversation at work today during lunch, with a group of coworkers about, a really high-end grinder, and one of the questions was, why on earth does this grinder cost this much? And I had to pull it all the way back down to, this is what a burr is, and this is how it functions, and but that's why this matters, because of how it's machined and the precision that it's machined at, and why that matters to coffee so much. Um, and that kind of those light bulbs that you get to see is a lot of what I like about
Hmm.
producing content. Now I don't get to see the physical light bulb moment, but, I do get messages from people who are like, what was that thing that you showed that you have your fellow kettle on? What is that? That's so cool. You can put your scale under it. Oh yeah, this is what this is, and whatever it is, and to have those kind of interactions is super fun for me.
The real question would be, can that really expensive grinder grind one of your son's toys? Um,
Mm,
just
I don't know. They might need to send two so that I
yeah,
can determine if it does, and if it doesn't, I at least have a
there you go.
backup. I should add to that if I can.
Sure.
Um, I, I wanna make sure that there's a good understanding, meeting people where they are, and making sure that you're never um, snooty about it, right? I think there has been some cases within the community that if you're not here in your coffee journey, then you just don't know coffee. And it's an unfortunate part of the community, and hopefully that's a very small outlier kind of mindset. I want to make sure that people don't ever feel um, like they're lesser of an enthusiast because they didn't grind their coffee on whatever this is over here, or they're not pulling shots from this over here, right? That level of meeting people where they are and making sure that they feel like they're just as much a member of the community because they are, right? They're just at a different stage of their coffee community or coffee journey, and we've all been there,
Mhm.
right? Whether we like to admit it or not, we've all brewed coffee in a Keurig, right? At some point in our lives. And so
I'll admit to it. Okay.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
and so that's an important thing to remember, that we've all been at that stage. So let's help those who are at that stage to enjoy coffee a little bit better. And if they don't want to, and if they don't want to invest, that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with finding your stopping point in coffee, and loving that point in coffee,
Mhm.
and let's just be as supportive of those people as we are in our own journeys. So
Nice.
I think that's an important thing to remember.
I think just when we're talking about coffee, we are specifically talking about third wave or specialty
Mm,
coffee, right?
yeah.
And I think for many years there's just been that pretentiousness that exists. I
Hmm.
think that's what you're kind of alluding to, and that's
Yeah.
I experienced that in the beginning. And to be honest, when I first started in a specialty coffee, I did have that stage where I was
Mm,
just so enthusiastic about it, and I'm like,
mm,
I was probably borderline coffee snob.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
and I've kind of reeled back a little bit because I think, to your point, coffee ends
Mm,
up not being fun when you approach it in that way.
yeah.
So I think there's just there's a level you get to where it's just, hey, let's just enjoy it and enjoy the time together. I think that's
Yeah.
what I enjoy about coffee so much, and I appreciate you sharing that. What would you say to the person who's brand new to coffee? Maybe they just tried their first sip of specialty coffee and they're just like,
Mm,
where do I go next? Like, how would you encourage,
mm.
or what would you say to this person that is just exploring it for the first time?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are so many resources available to you as someone who is interested in exploring specialty coffee. I mean, there are YouTube channels and Instagram accounts. Shout out Exploration Coffee.
There you go.
There are Facebook communities of people who are just starting out, whether it's in filter coffee or espresso, and maybe you don't even know what the word filter coffee means, right? But there are so many resources out there to help people along their journey. Ask questions, ask. Um, I did the same thing when I was starting out in specialty coffee, and even as a content creator, um, approaching bigger content creators and saying, "Hey, I just got asked to create a reel for this product. What do I do? What do I say?" Right? There are enough people who truly want to help and encourage, that I think you'll get the answers that you need, even if you don't know what questions to ask. And sometimes it's about jumping on that Facebook group and saying, "I just tried my first sip of specialty coffee and I loved it. What do I do next?" I guarantee you, you'll get more answers than you know what to do with. And explore. Try new coffees. If you love the one you have, get a bag, but try more bags, right? And explore and find even more things that you love. Get online and look for a great coffee pot that's reliable and consistent and in your price range. Maybe that's a dripper and a gooseneck kettle. Maybe that's a mocha master. Wherever you are in that journey, find that thing that works best for you and roll with that and learn with that and grow with that, and then explore new things. Um, I like to say that coffee is a really big, deep, dark, expensive hole. Um, but find what you love and stick to that. And ask questions. Be open to receiving answers, whether they're fun or not. Sometimes the answers we need are the ones that aren't as comfortable, but help
Mhm.
us learn and grow. And so just be open to the answers that you're gonna get for sure, but always ask questions.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. And who are you listening to right now? So if you could just, I don't know, maybe your top podcasts or maybe content creators,
Yeah.
who is it that you're listening to or that you draw inspiration from?
There are a couple guys that I watch frequently on YouTube. Justin from Daddy Got Coffee.
Okay.
He's been super influential for me. He's been so available when I have questions. He was one of the first big creators that I went to and said, I don't know what I'm doing, help.
Nice.
And he was super available and loved to talk to me about stuff. So I'd always recommend him to people. Lifestyle Labs is a great one as well. Lots of Canadians. I love them. I love them to death. Who are some of the other guys? Home Coffee by Charlie is always a great option. He's a I think he's a little bit newer of a content creator on YouTube, but he's always a great resource. Ethan Rohde is always a great option as well. He's one that I've always appreciated because he does such a good job at reaching people where they are. A lot of his content isn't specifically about like higher end specialty coffee. It's about stuff that you can make at home with the stuff you have. And so that's always been a great tool as well. And there was one more that I just had in my brain. Oh, Jimmy the Barista. My goodness, my man. Met him at SCA this past year. Super cool guy, so much energy, loves coffee, loves helping people and encouraging people in their coffee journeys. I would always recommend going and checking his content out. He's super active on Instagram. Is where I typically get my content from him.
Yep.
So I would always recommend checking him out too. And he just launched a merch site as well. Yeah, he's doing some really cool stuff over there. So go check that out as well. But as far as podcasts go, Jimmy the Barista has got a really great one called Let's Have Coffee. And he's had some super cool um, voices on there. He's had Ethan, Rhodey, and Morgan, and he had Make Worth Coffee on there at one point. So he's had a ton of really good people on there, tons of really good resources
Yeah.
for just general coffee or for like content creation. So that's been really good.
Cool, man. As we kind of close things up, I was just curious. You got a lot on your plate: family,
Mm.
your marketing job. You got this exploration coffee on the side. How do you balance it all? How would you encourage someone who's got a lot on their plate how to just balance their time wisely?
Yeah, of course. I would always recommend that you prioritize the most important thing. Um, if you're a husband, prioritize your wife. If you're a father and a husband, prioritize your family. Coffee is always secondary, in my opinion. Um, my job, my coffee content creation should never and ought never to be more important than my family.
Mhm.
So make the best use of your time that you can, prioritizing the things that matter most. Um, and like we were talking about earlier, I have that little window in the evenings that I get to make content, and it is a privilege. I get to make content. Um, but I don't ever want that part of my life to be more important than all the other parts of my life.
Yeah.
So, make the most use of your time, find ways to be more efficient with the time that you have, I guess in regards to content specifically, um, so that it's not taking up all the time away from the things that matter most. Um, and so finding the efficiency tools like I have the task management softwares and whatever else, if you need that as a way to make more time with your family or your spouse or your partner or whatever that looks like, that's always a recommendation for me for sure.
Wise words from
Okay.
John. Love it.
Thank you, thank
Um,
you.
you shared so much really good stuff. But for content creators, earlier I had asked you for a tip for those who are new to specialty coffee.
Mhm,
What about those that are maybe exploring getting into content creation or getting into trying to do digital media or marketing? Like,
mhm.
um, what's a good tip that you would give that individual?
That's a great question. I think the very first question that I would want to answer for myself would be the why. I think if you have a passion for coffee, or maybe you have a passion for coffee and taking photos, ask yourself why. What's the end goal look like for you, for this? Like we kind of alluded to earlier, maybe it's because you're passionate about it and you want to share it with people that are like-minded with you, and that's all that you ever want it to be. Go for it. But it's important to have that mentality mindset going into it, so that you know what your expectations are going to be. If you want it to be a side business or even a full-time business, there are plenty of creators that support themselves and their families through content creation. If that's your end goal, then learn and grow in that craft so that can be your end goal. Um, but there are so many resources out there, and asking questions of people who are doing it is going to be super key. It's really easy to make a ton of mistakes, going into it blind. So ask. If you're curious, ask. Send a message to a content creator and that is doing the thing that you want to do, and ask them about stuff.
Nice.
Ask them what a media kit looks like, because a brand is going to ask. Yeah, the understanding the why behind the content is going to be your first question to ask. Everything else will come with time.
That's good. Just ask. I think that's the.
Just ask.
I think that's it. Just
I need a
ask. If you,
T-shirt.
yeah,
Just ask.
just ask. There you go.
Yep.
With a coffee mug as one of the letters.
Yes,
There we go.
something or portafilter. It's something. We'll make it work.
Jimmy, make that T-shirt, man.
Yes. Come on, Jimmy.
Before we go, I want to give you a chance to tell everybody where to find you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram, at exploration_coffee. And you're welcome to come and check out what I'm doing. I'd love to have you over there. So that's the most active platform at this point.
Perfect. Yeah, you'll see his journey, coffee education, coffee exploration. Yeah, this was great. John, thank you so much
Yeah.
for just taking this time to talk to me, share a little bit about your journey. I feel like we could just keep on going. My voice probably wouldn't hold up very well. I feel like it's already getting a little hoarse, but this was such a fun conversation, John. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I would really enjoy that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like this video. And if you want to see more content like this, definitely subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. We would love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below, or you can reach out to us by email at hello@thecoffeenerds.co. You can visit our website at thecoffeenerds.co, or follow us on Instagram at thecoffeenerds. Join us again soon as we continue to have real conversations with real coffee nerds. Have a great day. Cheers.